following KBVI Sports Special is brought to you by Pine Ridge Mall, Mark's Work Warehouse, Phil Meter Toyota, and the Ultimate Hobbyist.
I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime. And bad mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my shouts and kicks in my face, but I've come through. We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world. I've taken my bows and my curtain calls. You brought me fame and fortune and everything that goes with it. I thank you all, but it's been no bed of roses, no pleasure cruise. I consider it a challenge before the whole human race, and I ain't gonna lose. We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions of the world. The champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end. Oh, we are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losers, 'cause we are the champions.
All summer, Bengal fans would come up to Coach Dave Cragthorpe and ask how ISU would do against Boise State. No one cared that ISU first had to get past Eastern Washington. It was daylight when the game first got underway in Boise. Boise State took the opening kickoff and started to run the ball right down the field. The Broncos wouldn't stop until the ball was in the end zone. BSU up 7-zip early. More importantly, it looked like Boise would be able to move the ball on the ground, thus keeping the football out of Mike Maturik's hands. However, when ISU did get its hands on the football, it showed that they too could move the football. Machurik eventually finds freshman tight end Marty Ambrose in the end zone, and Idaho State had tied the game at 7. Dave Cragthorpe had closed practice the week prior to the Boise game. It is the only time that he has done that in 2 years with the Bengals. He threw in a couple of new wrinkles. First, Machurik, the league's top passer, suddenly turned into a running back. He finished with 89 yards on the ground, most of which came on a pair of draw plays which totally caught the Broncos off guard, and both led to scores. The first came when Machurik combined with Charles Ewing for a touchdown that would eventually be the game winner for ISU. Machurik would finish 15 of 33 for only 174 yards, but his running play won him the Big Sky Player of the Week award. ISU's final touchdown had a bit of Irish in it. Machurik improvised when he felt some pressure, started for the end zone, was hit, fumbled into the end zone, but luckily for ISU, Charles Ewing got to the ball first, and ISU had 6 more. This was also a big game for the defense. Dave Walliser had 14 tackles, and Matt Courtney had 2 interceptions, along with Bill Snap picking up 1. It was the first time in 10 years that Idaho State had beaten its cross-state rivals. The final, ISU 21, Boise State 10. Nevada Reno was tabbed as one of the early season favorites. They were one of the leading teams in terms of total offense in the country and looked on the first play of the game like they might run all over the Bengals. But John Vicari fumbled, Idaho State recovered, and the Bengals were on their way to their 3rd consecutive win. In spite of a couple of fine receptions by Dwayne Wilson, the ISU offense was also having problems getting the ball into the end zone. This game belonged to the ISU defense and kicker Case DeBruin. This booming punt got ISU out of trouble and kept the Wolfpack in its own end of the field. A short time later, the Pack had driven deep into Idaho State territory. Although not all members of the defensive unit liked the billing of bend but don't break, it was time to do it one more time. On 3 consecutive plays inside the 5-yard line, the Wolfpack failed to get the ball into the end zone. Although Pack linebacker John Ramatici would drive Machurik out of the end zone for a safety, the Pack had picked up only 2 points when it looked for certain that it would score 7 against a very porous Bengal defense. Those 2 points helped offset the touchdown reception of Jerry Bird earlier in the first quarter. Bird just does get 1 foot in on that play. He would then score one more time on a pass from Machurik. That score would come when Machurik was forced out of the pocket. Fortunately, he had the presence of mind to look deep. Bird made a superb catch, and ISU with 6 more. Later in that quarter, Machurik showed again that he could throw on the move. Feeling pressure, he rolls right and fires a bomb to running back Rick Ambrosi. He hauls it in and puts ISU in position for yet another score. Later, Dwayne Wilson would show some nifty footwork and pile up some much-needed yardage on the ground. That set up this 30-yard field goal by Case DeBruin. It is only fitting that the defense would once again stop the Wolfpack at the goal line. The Pack piled up 509 yards in total offense, but their only score came on a field goal. The other 4 points donated by the ISU through safeties. The final, ISU 23, Nevada Reno 7. Northern Arizona was in the Mini-Dome for game number 4. This was the second of 3 straight home games that Idaho State had to win if it had any hopes of wrestling the Big Sky Championship away from Boise State. ISU had moved out to a 1-game lead over the Broncos and did not want to give that game back. The Lumberjacks never threatened ISU. As usual, Idaho State was passing the football. Only this time, none of the balls were landing on the dome floor. The first 17 passes thrown by Mike Machurik landed in friendly hands, and ISU was off to a 31-6 victory. Machurik was firing with pinpoint accuracy, and when he was off, his receivers were coming up with some acrobatic catches. Case DeBruin kicked this field goal and averaged nearly 47 yards punting. Machurik threw 2 touchdown passes. The first went to senior flanker Chris Korp, a play that set well with the ISU crowd. Then, out of the shotgun, Machurik with loads of time finds split end Charles Ewing open. That's for 6, and this game about to go into the record books. ISU over NAU, 31-6. The following week, ISU would travel to Portland State, winning 28-9. No one was ready for the bad news during the week prior to game number 6. Mike Machurik had been feeling weak. A trip to the doctor revealed mononucleosis. Mike would be listening to this ball game on the radio. That meant that Dirk Cutter would be getting his first start since 1979. He had played off and on the past season, but always in a backup role. ISU opened on the ground and would spend an unusual amount of time trying to get things going without risking an interception. Things finally paid off as Dwayne Wilson found his way through a huge hole opened by Ken Bacon and Jim Lane, but ISU just could not stop Montana's Rocky Cleaver. He rushed for 185 yards and eventually found the end zone on this sequence. Dwayne Wilson also had an exceptional game. The senior running back rushed for 79 yards, had 6 catches and 59 yards, and had 120 yards in kickoff returns. Here he shows some good moves as he scores his second touchdown of the game on the ground. A few minutes later, Dave Walzer would catch quarterback Marty Morningwing in the end zone for a safety. It appeared that ISU might pull it out, but in spite of the interception by John Barry, Morningwing led the Grizzlies to a 24-21 upset victory over Idaho State. The loss dropped the Bengals out of first place. Cutter, though, finished the game 20 of 33 for 216 yards. The Bengals got a break, an off week. That gave Machurik another week to recover from his bout with mononucleosis. He made the trip to Moscow and came out throwing. This game was crucial for Idaho State. A loss would knock them out of the championship race and would probably keep them out of postseason play. But that postseason play was not on the mind of Machurik as he marched the team up the field. But then he threw a pass that shouldn't have been thrown, and the first drive it stalled. Still, Mike showed he was able to throw, and throw well. Enter Chris Korp. Chris was just starting to peak for ISU. He would grab 2 short passes, then Wilson would take one, and then it was Rod Childs. That set the stage for Machurik under heavy pressure to do his thing. Although this drive faltered, number 29, Charles Ewing, would show in later games just what a good receiver he is. Machurik also showed that he could throw long and throw accurate. Machurik did everything but kick a field goal in this game. Here he scores from the 1. Later he runs the option, one of only a handful of times that play has been run this year. The play of the game came early in the 4th quarter. Machurik gives to Wilson, sweeping left. The Vandals have it stopped cold, but all of a sudden Wilson pulls up and tosses a 23-yard pass to Machurik. He eludes a couple of defenders and rolls up 6 for the Bengals. Idaho was not a threat after that. Mike was again the Big Sky Player of the Week. He completed 22 of 37 passes for 359 yards. Dwayne Wilson caught 7 of those passes. The next week, ISU would walk all over Montana State 31-3. That would set the stage for Utah State. The Utah State game got off on the wrong foot for the Bengals. Case DeBruin banged his kickoff into the end zone, but that didn't stop the Aggies from bringing it out. The Utah State returner took the ball down the right side, right in front of the Idaho State bench, and all the way into the end zone for a quick 6. The game was less than 20 seconds old, and Utah State was already ahead, 7-0. Fortunately, Idaho State did not push the panic button. Dave Cragthorpe mixed things up in the early going, starting with a few running plays by tailback Dwayne Wilson. He then went to the air with Charles Ewing doing most of the damage to the Aggies. He caught 2 passes from Machurik that put ISU in good scoring position. Now that Ewing had gotten the attention of the Aggie defenders, it was time for Machurik to concentrate his efforts elsewhere. Chris Korp was about to catch the first of his 4 touchdown passes. Machurik was given excellent protection by Jim Lane, Dan Taylor, Steve Anderson, Ken Knoll, and Ken Bacon. The strike to Corp tied things at 7. It didn't take long for Machurik to start another touchdown drive. He again used Corp to get the ball rolling. That Corp to Machurik connection would work all evening against the Aggies, but the clincher this time would come from Charles Ewing. Billed as the league's top big play man, Ewing would find himself on the receiving end of a Machurik aerial that would put the Bengals up by a touchdown. Charles didn't hold on to it very long in the end zone, but all you have to do is have possession, and he had it. The ensuing kickoff spelled doom for the Aggies and may have been the key to the victory for ISU. Utah State never got the ball out of the end zone. The officials ruled safety, and ISU would get 2 points on the football. It would turn out to be a 9-point turnaround. Instead of Utah State with the ball, the Bengals had picked up 2 gift points, plus another touchdown drive was about to begin. Junior center Jim Lane was banged up on the drive, but his backup Howard Zarland blew open a hole and watched as Lamar Fight burst up the middle. A couple of plays later, Machurik would take a short 3-step drop, lob the ball into the end zone, and there would be Corp again hauling in yet another touchdown. ISU led at this point 23-14. Later, Machurik would demonstrate some good speed on the bootleg. He hauled into the end zone with a final dive, and ISU was about to turn the game into a rout. In the fourth quarter, Idaho State would score 27 points. Machurik's final touchdown pass came on this toss to Chris Corp. All he had to do was run under it because the pass was picture perfect. For his efforts, Corp would be named the league's Offensive Player of the Week. The win was Idaho State's first in 10 tries against the Aggies. Machurik broke the ISU record with 426 yards passing. He had 5 TD passes, 4 to Corp and 1 to Ewing. ISU had 3 interceptions from Nallei, Barry, and Willie Allen. ISU's record went to 8-1. Weber State game was the most important contest of the year for Idaho State. There were a number of possibilities concerning who would win the Big Sky Championship. If Boise State and Idaho State lost, Weber State and Montana would share the championship with ISU and BSU. It was anyone's guess as to who would then go to the playoffs. ISU might have been affected by that pressure. Machurik was off and no one really seemed to want to pick up the slack. However, Case DeBruin may have played the game of his career. The senior from Manassas, West Virginia, set a Big Sky one-game record by averaging 53.6 yards punting, with 4 of them better than 55 yards. Still, it was not his punting that would be remembered after this game. The defense played strong throughout the contest for ISU. Leading the way, junior linebacker Bill Snap from Blackfoot intercepted this Weber aerial and nearly ran it back for a touchdown. Snap would later be named Big Sky Defensive Player of the Week. Idaho State led 23-20 when Weber State's Roger Ruzek belted a 51-yard field goal that sent the contest into overtime. This was ISU's first encounter with the league's new tiebreaker system. Dave Cragthorpe maintained that he did not like the system for breaking a tie. Each team would get the ball on the 15 and have 4 shots at getting a first down or a score. If the team got a first down, they got 4 more downs. Weber needed only 3 on its first possession, moving the score to 30-23. That was their first and only lead of the evening. Machurik brought ISU right back, first by hitting Jerry Bird with a 10-yarder that put the ball on the 5. Two plays later, senior Rick Ambrosi would bowl his way over left tackle for 6. Case DeBruin added the extra point, and it was overtime number 2. A deflected pass nearly spelled doom for Idaho State, but Ruzek went from hero to GOAT by missing a 23-yard field goal. It was time for overtime number 3. The ISU defense rose to the occasion by putting strong pressure on the quarterback. He eventually fumbled the football. It was scooped up by a lineman who did his best to march the ball upfield. Ruzek again, this time from 44 yards out. He misses, and it was up to Case to Bruin. The picture tells the story. Idaho State and the University of Rhode Island were making their first appearances in the playoffs. Rhode Island actually benefited by the division expanding the playoffs to include 8 teams. ISU was a shoo-in, being ranked second in the country and having won the Big Sky Conference. Although Rhode Island too was a champion, the Yankee, they also had a 6-5 record. As it turned out, Rhode Island did not belong in the playoffs. ISU led only 16-zip at the half, but poured it on the last 2 periods to rout Rhode Island 51-0. ISU rolled up 609 yards in total offense to crush the Rams. Rhode Island was unable to score or even move the ball on its first possession. ISU got the ball on its own 22-yard line. It was time for Charles Ewing. Three plays later, Dwayne Wilson would open the scoring for Idaho State on this move around left end. ISU's offense fizzled after that, and much of the first quarter was spent watching the defense keeping each other in check. But midway through the second quarter, Rick Ambrosi would start a 9-play drive with a short burst up the middle. Following a 14-yard gain by Dwayne Wilson, Maturk found Chris Corp open. That gave ISU a first down on the Ram 33. This time to the ground as Ambrosi moves the ball deep into Rhode Island territory at the 10. It would take 3 plays for Maturk to find Charles Ewing. Two plays later, Matt Courtney intercepted a pass that would lead to a field goal by Case de Bruin. ISU up at the close of the half, 16-0. Early in the third quarter, ISU opted for a bit of dipsy-doodle. De Bruin to punt. Following the penalty, De Bruin punted. Rhode Island again floundered, and it was time for Maturk to hit Lamar Fight. The connection was good for 46 yards and set the stage for Maturk again. Only Mike would have to do it twice this time. The first score to Charles Ewing was called back because of a holding penalty. However, all was in order when Rod Childs hauled in this 28-yard scoring strike. A couple of big plays played key roles in ISU's next scoring drive. First, Rod Childs for 19 yards. Then it was time for Charles Ewing to do his thing once more. Now it was time for Jerry Bird to get into the scoring act. ISU went 80 yards in 6 plays and was 30-zip. That was it for Machurik. Dirk Cutter would be at quarterback when Mike Holliday went up the middle for 6. Holliday could have walked through that huge hole opened by the ISU front line. ISU would score again a short time later. Cutter to Vandergriff. It was Joe Lawrence picking up his second pass interception. This time in the fourth quarter, that gave ISU's third quarterback, Keith Simons, one more shot at getting the ball into the end zone. The final, ISU 51, Rhode Island 0. Charles Ewing was outstanding. 6 receptions for 160 yards as ISU moved into the semifinals against South Carolina State. South Carolina State invaded the Mini-Dome the following week, armed with the nation's top defense. But it was their offense that allowed the Bengals to strike quickly. On the first play of the game, a costly fumble on South Carolina State's own 23-yard line puts Idaho State in easy scoring position. 4 plays later, it's Lamar Fight up the middle from the 1. That puts the Bengals on the scoreboard first. The Bulldogs were not about to roll over and play dead. On the next series, they marched 83 yards in 6 plays. The extra point is no good. 7-6, Idaho State. A series of fumbles later in the first quarter would slow the Bengal advance as much as South Carolina State's massive defensive line. Then Machurik's arm comes alive. He finds Charles Ewing for 29 yards. Then it's Ewing again, running on the reverse that gives ISU good field position. And finally, Machurik's 13-yard pass to Wilson puts the Bengals up by 8. The second quarter was a defensive tug-of-war, and once again the Bengal defense proves up to the task. The Bulldogs' desperation efforts on 4th down stifled. The throwing Idahoans regained control with less than a minute left in the half. It only takes 4 plays to travel 73 yards. Machurik once again finding Ewing, this time 43 yards and 6 points. On the very next play, Matt Courtney demoralizes the Bulldog offense even more by intercepting a pass on the 45. Case de Bruin's 43-yard field goal attempt is good, and the half ends with ISU up by 18 points. De Bruin was not finished for the day. Late in the third quarter, he would try for a 46-yard bullseye. The try pays off. And Matt Courtney was not through with his defensive gymnastics, intercepting yet another South Carolina State pass. Backup quarterback Dirk Cutter comes into the game in the middle of the third quarter, but despite some fine passing, cannot find the end zone. minutes remaining in the game. Cutter finds Lamar Fight for 52 yards. It's called back, though, because of a holding penalty, but 3 plays later, Cutter goes up top this time, 60 yards. Charles Ewing hauls it in. Dwayne Wilson was Cutter's choice to receive his first touchdown pass of the game. Turnovers by South Carolina State continued to work to ISU's advantage. Late in the fourth quarter, John Olivia made his 3rd fumble recovery, this time on the South Carolina State 21-yard line. Keith Simons, now in at the Bengal helm, was not to be shut out by his 2 quarterback colleagues, showing that he too could throw on the run. Simons finds Mike Holliday for the final score of the game. ISU demolished the favorite Bulldogs 41-12, and the stage is set for Idaho State's first ever national championship.
ABC Sports presents NCAA College Football. It's the Colonels of Eastern Kentucky against the Bengals of Idaho State. And that's where we are today, the Pioneer Bowl in Wichita Falls, Texas, for this national championship game in Division I AA. It couldn't be a better matchup. Number 1 ranked Eastern Kentucky against number 2 ranked Idaho State. And it should be a great afternoon of college football. And, of course, the added significance means that we have a national championship at stake. 1st and 10. The Bengals of Idaho State. Machurik lobs another one over the middle. He's got Ambrose at the 45-yard line. Fumbled the ball. I believe, however, it had been blown dead. Let's see. No, it isn't. It is going to be Eastern Kentucky's ball.
This is a delay pattern to our tight end, Marty Ambrose, our freshman from Spokane, Washington, and he makes a nice catch and gets some good movement out. He runs hard, and he fumbles the ball on the way down, and I thought at first that maybe this was a bad call, but I really don't believe so.
First down on the 44-yard line of Eastern Kentucky. We've just begun this national championship game in Division I AA. But here is Rednar McFall on that flanker around that he scored on. A week ago, there was a penalty marker down at the 45-yard line. He got it to the 41, and then the ball got loose.
Bill, they'll refuse the penalty, obviously. It was a clip by Kevin Grieve, the All-American offensive guard.
And it is going to be Idaho State's football.
Well, they started the ball game, their first offensive play, with this flanker reverse. We had seen it, of course. They ran it well against Boise, and they did an outstanding job. But their great All-American number 60 coming into the picture right now puts a clip on Matt Courtney, and then, of course, they fumbled the ball on the way down. So we got a break. Of course, they would have been pushed back 15 yards even if you had not fumbled.
Eastern Kentucky, the champions of 1979, the runners-up a year ago, trying to get their title back. Here's Terrence Thompson, and he's pulled down on a good defensive play by Bill Snap, the inside linebacker, number 43. Good pursuit on that.
Well, that was tremendous.
Well, this is their basic outside running game. They either run the toss, sweep, or the option, and they do a good job with it. Bill Snap makes an excellent play here, and again, utilizing that great speed of his.
Jamie Lovett has the long of 47. This one will be 20 yards. It should be duck soup for him. It's up and through. And the Colonels of Eastern Kentucky, the champions in 79, the runners up in 80, are out in front in 81 by the score of 3-0 to the tornado that Dave Dow's described earlier. This game was not held here for the last couple of years. But it's back home, and it's Dwayne Wilson getting the first down as he struggles to about the 44-yard line. Gus Parks picked him off.
This is a little inside route to Dwayne Wilson. He coming out of the backfield, and he makes a great move right there, and of course advances the ball very well. Dwayne is extremely dangerous.
Now the question is, can Case DeBruin equalize the three-pointer that was put up by Jamie Lovett of Eastern Kentucky?
Well, let me interrupt just a minute, Bill. Cotter, the quarterback, is in at fullback. watch for a pass right here. I believe they're going to throw a pass. They line up in the spread formation as some other teams in pro football do. Watch. Let's watch for it.
And Cutter is going to throw. Over the middle. He's got it. Jerry Bird. First down on the 16.
Well, this is what we call our shotgun punt, of course, and the completion to Bird was a big one at that point and put us in good field position for the first touchdown.
They spotted on the 17-yard line. First down for the Bengals of Idaho State, trailing 3-0 in the first quarter. And here is Mike Machurik over the center. Touchdown!
I really thought this was one of the best passes that Mike threw all day. We're going against the wind, and he really puts good velocity on this ball to Chris Corp, and right in there, and of course a good catch. Chris runs a good route, and he's a little more open than maybe the replay will show because it was a good yard or two ahead of that defender.
Sanders may be angling a little bit toward the sidelines. He doesn't really need the distance. Oh, they go short. Nicky Yeast, he breaks into the open at the 30, down to the 15, and he's inside the 10-yard line on the fake punt situation.
That really disappointed me because when we sent our team out on the field to return the punt, we told them to be sure and watch for the fake. We thought it was an obvious situation, and our team should have been aware of it.
Chris Isaac pitches to Hairston, makes the cut. Look at him go into the end zone for a touchdown. Great effort.
This is the pitch sweep to Harrison. He's a fine back who was MVP in the Boise game, and Bill Snap does an uncharacteristic thing here and overruns him and misses the tackle. He could have had him for about a 2-yard loss, I thought. But it's a good running effort, no question about that.
He's open. Goodness.
Wide open is Wilson. He gets to the 7. He's snagged by Rodney Bird. First and goal to go. Here is Rod Childs, the tight end who led the Big Sky and tied for 9th in the National Division a year ago in receiving. Was a third-team All-America player a year ago. He's been injured, and this is his first appearance in several games.
Bill, he has the same type of pad on his ankle as Machurik does.
Wilson, big hole, touchdown!
Line trap to Dwayne Wilson. We don't run this too often, but when we do, we've been very effective, and we get a good block from Marty Ambrose, our tight end, and of course Dwayne gets in.
Over the middle, he's got his man, touchdown. Charles J.R. Ewing scores again.
Another great completion here to Charles Ewing. I think it was Charles' only catch of the game, but it was for a touchdown, and Mike zips it right in there. He's wide open. Good throw and a good catch.
Ace de Bruin with 46 out of 49. It was credit right to this point of the season. Makes it 47 out of 50. With 47 seconds to go in the first half, Eastern Kentucky has its goal line threatened again. They're already down. And going wide is Wilson. Into the end zone he goes. He got it.
Bill, when you got guards like Ken Bacon pulling out and Noah knocking the cornerback and linebacker down, boy, that's perfect execution on the old Green Bay sweep.
And Dwayne does a good job running, and we get a fine block here from Ken Bacon. This is just before the half, of course, and put us up 28-9.
And what a job the Bengals of Idaho State have done here. They were trailing in the first quarter, but boy, I'll tell you, they came back and now have extended lead to 28-9.
30 more minutes culminates the whole season right here. And right exactly where we want to be at this point. Good defense in the first half, good offense. Everything's going real well. We just got to keep it up now and keep steady. The only way we can lose this football game is to make mistakes. Let's just go out there and play steady the same way as we did in the first half. Keep the pressure on them all the way. We got the best football team in now. Let's not let this thing get away from us. All right, let's get out there and get
2 downs to make 2 yards. If you're a good football team, you go right at them. That's the thing that they do best.
Isaac. Yeast. He's got it. Touchdown.
They give it to their big fullback Yeast here, and he is an extremely powerful runner. He's 235 pounds, and you can see that he got hit, but gets it into the end zone.
Here's Isaac going for the pass on the first one and the long pass.
The intercepted, too.
Sure will be. It's thrown right to number 17. That's Reggie Chapman. And he gets it back to the 27-yard line. It was intended for Jerry Parrish, who was down the sidelines, but it was thrown underneath him by a good 15 yards.
I thought this interception by Reggie Chapman was one of the key plays in the ball game, and especially, of course, in the second half, because we hadn't been moving the ball very well. The ball is grossly underthrown, and, of course, Reggie's in good position and comes back and makes the interception and brings it out an additional 10 or 15 yards for us.
At the Pioneer Bowl to Wichita Falls, 1st and goal to go for the Bengals of Idaho State. The ball is given to the fullback Lamar Fight. He's got a touchdown, making it 34-16 in favor of Idaho State.
Eastern Kentucky can make a first down on the 3-yard line and get 4 more shots.
East stumbles into the end zone, touchdown.
Well, again, they give it to the big fullback Yeast, and just a good second effort. We hit him a couple of times. I saw that Len Nally has a shot at him right there and has him in his arms, but he just carries him right into the end zone.
Idaho State with Keith Simons, the quarterback. And he is pulled down on the 24-yard line. The clock keeps moving. All of the timeouts have been used by Eastern Kentucky. Dave Cragthorpe starting to receive the congratulations and hugs along the sidelines. There's the clock. And the Bengals of Idaho State University will win it. Roy Kidd obviously disappointed. There's not time for another play. Dave Cragthorpe will seek Roy Kidd out. And the championship trophy belongs in Pocatello.
You ready? Good game. Good game. Come by! Hold on, look over there. Mike, why were you so successful passing against them?
Well, we didn't think their strength was against the pass. You know, last week against Boise, they didn't cover it very well either. But they said they were going to blitz me a lot, and they did, and they dropped 8 people, and our receivers and backs got wide open. I had all day long to throw the ball with the way our offensive line was blocking. So no way I couldn't have missed throwing the ball to our receivers today.
How about defense, Willie?
We just shut them down. Coach said shut down the run, they'll throw the ball. They have to start throwing the ball, then we just got to make the play, and we did a great job. Whole defense, whole team played a great game today. There you go.
Thoughts now? I mean, you were here in the old days.
Yeah, this is great. This is highlight of my career here. Last game of life, so it's great.
And it looked like again this week that you guys controlled the line of scrimmage. The running game was shut down.
Yeah, I think we did. I think the only time that we didn't. The only time they ran on us was a few missed responsibilities, but outside of that, I think we did up front, especially on the pass rush.
What's this mean to you guys?
Oh, it means I can't give you words for it right now. This is my last game ever, and you can't get any better. You really can't, outside the 13-0 season, but I will settle for 12-1, no problem. What do you think the key to the game was?
Well, I think the fact that we were able to play well in the first quarter when we had the wind against us and start out and get ahead. After they got the 3-0, then we came back and scored a touchdown against the wind. I think that really gave our team confidence. And then when we got the wind at our back in the second quarter, of course, we really went to work.
What do you think about turning the team around like you have in the past couple of years, going from 0-11 within a couple of years to winning the national championship?
Greatest coaching job in history.